Hi, and welcome to Sustainable Photography. Today, I have a very special guest. I have my friend Mona Moe with me, and she is a retired photographer who went through burnout, and that is what we're going to talk about today. And it's such an important topic, and I hope you're going to listen to the episode. You're listening to Sustainable Photography, a podcast all about business tips, inspiration, and confidence building. I'm Ingvild Kolnes, the host of this podcast, and after over a decade as a photographer, I now help talented photographers run sustainable businesses. And for full transparency, you should know that I'm a mentor with paid offers, and I will probably mention some of those in this episode. Today, on the podcast, I have my friend Mona, who I've looked up to for years. And I finally asked if she wanted to do an episode with me, which she did. So why don't we start with you just telling us who you are, Mona?
Okay, I will. I'm kind of a photographer. I always resisted to be a photographer. It's not something I wanted to be. I never dreamt about being a photographer. And even when I was working as a photographer, it was difficult for me to say I'm a photographer. I prefer storyteller. It sets me a bit more free in my work. But I have been working as a photojournalist in Africa. I am Norwegian and I live in Norway now. And I worked for a long time as a wedding and portrait photographer. Some editorial, made some books. My education is in art, photography as art. And I guess that's where my heart is. And I got burned out, as many photographers do. Mm-hmm. And now I have retired, as I say. I'm not working as a photographer anymore. I work in an old age home as a nurse. But I do some photography still for books, but only when I don't have any pressure. That's how I work now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we've known each other for a long time. And to me, it was a surprise that you suddenly was like, no, I'm not a photographer anymore. I'm selling all my equipment. It was like, what's happening? What did happen?
I think it was definitely not out of the blue. I write a lot every morning. I have all these sketchbooks and I write. And I was reading the other day something I wrote 5 years ago. I think now I quit. And I had written it was not like it came out of the blue. It was more like one of those, those bathing balls. Is it called, those balls you have in the swimming pool? Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of those that had stayed out in the winter. The color just fade off and the air just slowly goes out. There's no hole in the ball. It just, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
And I think it took me a long time to realize what exactly went wrong. I mean, it didn't go wrong. It went very right because I couldn't live like that. But I think now that I did a lot of therapy, I did a lot of work on myself to understand. There's many things to realize. First thing first, I think was my self-worth. Mm. I think it has a lot to do with being woman in our day society and running your own business. I think lots of women, we come to photography as artists with our soul, with the creative spirit. We don't go to photography to earn money, to have prestige, to have a business at all. Mm-hmm. This is the masculine aspect of our society that forces into competition, into making money. It becomes about something else. I think this is a big frustration for women entrepreneurs today. And I think we don't know it, how big a problem it is for us. I think as women, we are not brought up in a way that it's easy for us to put a price I think it's easier for men to be in a business and say, okay, this is what it costs. It's expensive, but I want to earn money. For us, these things hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it felt a bit like prostitution.
Mm.
And my self-worth went down and down and down. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
So in that way, it also came as a surprise to me when there was no more air in the balloon. Because I love photography. I loved all the things I was doing. So many aspects of it that I really loved, and meeting all the people. I love the ecstatic feeling of getting a good shot. Also like sharing it. But there is also another side that almost killed me, which is, I think, also has to do with being woman, actually, which is my codependency and my tendency to seek validation from outside and trying to make people like me in a way, with trying to impress, which is, I think, a very masculine way again. And these things, you don't know it, but it's kind of eats a bit of your soul all the time. And I got hooked on likes.
Yeah.
I felt like one of those, those Russian dancers that they dance, like the music goes faster and faster and faster, and they just dance like crazy. That's how it felt. Like the more people applaud, the more you dance like hectically, and you don't even know what you're doing. You just want some more applause. And, it's not good. You're going to collapse at some point. Yeah.
So that's what happened. You just did too much, and then it was enough. It was over.
My soul was not in there.
And you didn't realize until it was too late, really?
Well, I realized from day one.
Oh, okay.
That this is not the way for me to... I remember I lived in Africa, worked as a photojournalist. That was okay. The moment I got back to Norway and I started to have my own business and try to promote myself in social medias, you have to put yourself so much out there. Mm-hmm. That moment, I remember it. I remember I went to bed one evening and my whole body was like this.
Like shaking.
Yeah. My energy was not inside me anymore. It was spread everywhere. And I remember thinking, shit, I cannot live like this. Mm-hmm. And still, for many years, I did.
Yeah. I'm sure you've spoken to other people who feel the same way. Do you think you could have done something differently?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I think this is what I had to learn, But if someone told me, like if there was this kind of podcast at that time, and someone was talking about these values, I think it could have helped me to realize a little bit earlier. But I think, or for me at least, there was no one talking about these things. I've thought about it later, how much it put me down to when you had a price for your pictures, like this is what it costs, and people say that's too expensive, And I thought, but it actually really put me a little bit down inside every time.
Yes.
Until there was no security, nothing left. Like I really felt like every time someone put the price down or the value down, I took it personally because my work is personal.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, because I think it's maybe especially as a wedding photographer, there's a lot of haggling, I want this many guests and we want it for this price.
Yeah.
And it's very different to do that with maybe a hotel than it is to do that with a photographer, because we put everything in it.
Yeah.
This is it is so personal. So the difference is you just can't do that to someone. It's not okay.
It's not okay, not at all. And we don't talk about it, us photographers. We don't talk about that part. We just get told, you know, you have to be more with your prices. But if we don't want to talk about what it does to our soul or our, then we can't deal with it, I think. Because for me, like, I could listen to people, especially men, reason I talk so much about like feminine, masculine, because I really think there are differences when running a business and when being a photographer. And I really, really believe this is why so many women in the photography business, the core, this is the core.
Yeah.
And, we listen so many men with the advice for a business, but that is not where the problem lays.
Yeah.
It lays in here when we keep taking it personally and thinking that they're actually saying we are not good enough.
Yeah.
And then we have this belief from before, that maybe about the most of us, struggle with this, I'm not good enough. And you have to be very, very strong. You really have to love yourself, which we don't, like most of us, to be so safe or so,
I understand what you're saying. And I think maybe because, of course, I've been exactly where you're describing, where I was told again and again that my prices are too expensive, even though they weren't at all. And I've told the story many times before that my prices were so low that I was in reality paying to get to shoot people's weddings because I didn't know. And still people told me that I was too expensive. And of course, that's really devastating. My kind of initial solution has been to like make sure you know your numbers, that you know. And if someone is telling you that you're too expensive, that's kind of their problem. But I don't think I've ever thought to kind of heal the part or even think about the part that how destructive that is to your heart and soul, because it really is.
It really is. If you are not aware of that, it eats on you and your belief about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we most of us also have like grow up with the issue around money, or at least me. I think I always thought like money is for the greedy, or or you feel like you're a bit spiritual, or you can't deal with those things. You want to be kind, so you just give away all your money. We have so many issues that is not actually we know we can put this price, but if we can't think that we deserve the money or we are really worth it, then like me, I even like put my prices down before people said anything sometimes. Yeah. I knew for me the prices are expensive. So they said, okay, we want to book you. I said, okay, you can have it a little cheaper.
Yes, that is so common. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But what is very interesting, when I finally said, okay, I can't do this anymore. It was my last season and I didn't want to photograph another wedding. I really had enough,
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I put my prices up. Double. I mean, I think my price was double what every other wedding photographer in Norway. So I thought, now I don't need to photograph any weddings. And people called me and they said, we want to book you, but why are you so expensive? I said, well, because that's what I need to do this job. I'm not doing it for less. Fine, we book you.
No.
We should have known this before. But that is why I had the confidence to say, this is the amount of money I need to do the job. Yeah. Otherwise, forget it.
Yeah.
So if we had that confidence from the beginning, I could do only half the weddings in a season.
Yeah. No, but that's so common. And I hear that so often where it's like, you just think that it's a matter of charging less and then you'll get the bookings, which means that you have to work twice as much.
Yeah.
And I think I just remember something from the pandemic, which fortunately for you were done by then. But for the rest of us, we were in the middle of it. And there used to be this thing called, what was it called? It was something where you, like having a live talk. It was an app and people were coming on it. And me and Kristin Eide, we used to have a talk every Friday at 1, and then people would come join. And I remember one time there were a few of the top male photographers in Norway who came on, and they're like, yeah, you just say that they have to pay this extra fee when they want to rebook their wedding, because you can't just expect to get another date. So just say it's this much, and it's, yeah. And that's what they did, and it worked fine for them. But when I tried to do that, it didn't work, because the grooms would call me up and be like, no, why are you doing this? You can't do this. We are not going to pay more. And for me, it was like, okay, so because I'm a girl, I can't call it a fee. I have to do something else. And it was just such an eye opener that what worked really well for them, it just wouldn't work for me.
And I think that has to do with your self-worth. You know, we pick up on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I really think, like, women, we have to have another way of seeing business.
Yeah.
Because we don't believe in it. So how can I put the price when I don't believe I'm worth those money? Or I put an extra fee, but I don't dare to, like,
enforce it.
Yeah, actually, I feel inside that, that's crazy. I'm not worth those fees. And people pick up on that.
Yeah.
And it feels really, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good. It feels horrible.
Yeah. And so I think these feelings is something we really need to work on if we as women are going to be successful in business, especially in photography, which can easily feels like prostitution, because you give your soul, you really make something from your heart and your soul, and you want so much to please these people, and you want so much to give something, and that disappears, and that's where it hurts so much, I think.
Have you given any thought to what could help, or how things could have been easier? Like, what do you wish you had learned if you would have wanted to stay as a photographer? Like, what would you, or in business, what would you wish that you knew in terms of like the confidence and telling yourself that it's worth it, or that you're worth it?
I think I wish I'd, like, everyone says you have to love yourself, it sounds so easy, but what the hell? I don't even know what love is. Like, how are you going to love yourself? We grow up pleasing others, thinking that to earn love, we have to be lovable. I mean, we love others before we love ourselves. It's like a cliche, but still, if you don't love yourself, which I realized I didn't do, it's very hard to stand in such a public work as it is as a photographer. And there's lots of competition. It's a job where you give everything. It's like an Olympic. Every time you go to a wedding, it's like
it is.
You have to prepare like you're going to the Olympic Games the day after. It's when the doors in the church open and the bride comes in, and the light changed like this, and the mood changed like this, and she runs down the aisle because she's so nervous, and you have to get those pictures. It's like running in the Olympics, And now I lost track of what I was going to say.
How you wish you had thought about it, or how someone can think about it so that they're...
So I think, because that was a part of it that I actually also liked, but I think I wish I was a little bit more aware of what was what. And that I didn't always confuse, because sometimes I did something just for the money and it wasn't what I really liked.
Yeah.
And I guess I wished I had the courage to be more myself in my work and say, you pay. Actually, I wish there was never any business side of it. I don't know if I still know how to deal with that. That's why I'm not working as a photographer.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And as I mentioned, the pandemic was really, really hard. not just because of the lack of money and business, which of course was there, but it was how rude a lot of couples got. Like they had already gotten one extra date and they wanted another one, and they just, I lost hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and they were just like, but we don't want to lose these. And it's just like, this is ruining my whole life and my business, and everything's falling apart. And then my very last wedding, I'm sure you can relate to this, my very last wedding, the bride told me, I don't know how many times during the day and during the photos, this is so expensive. And I just couldn't see straight at the end. I was already really nervous because I knew she thought it was expensive, and I dreaded it for so long. And I knew this was going to be my last wedding because I had enough. And then during the photography, she was like, oh, it's so expensive to do wedding photography. And I'm pretty sure they're my worst wedding photos ever because I just couldn't think straight because she made me so nervous. And of course, we have to charge money. Everything we do costs money. So of course we need money. But that just goes to say like how important it is to work with the right people who give you energy instead of taking it away, because everything we do is so personal, like you say.
Yeah. And I don't know how to keep that balance. But like if people ask me now, can you take pictures? Sometimes I want to do it. But then now I say, okay, I'll do it as a gift. It's the only way I can do it now, because I had a burnout. And as soon as I get this much feeling of I have to perform, I'm dead.
Yeah. But do you feel like you don't have to perform when it's a gift?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then I create what I want.
Okay.
And they cannot tell me, I'm a little fat on that picture. Can you just, or the colors are not what I imagined, or can you just, no, you give it. It's black and white. You had imagined color, but that's my gift. So, and most of the times people, when I create something that I don't think about my customer, I create something that they will like. When I try to create something that I think they will like, it ends up in the middle and no one likes it.
Yeah.
Like I don't like it, that they don't like it. And but they don't know this, of course. So this is also like a thing that makes it not so fun, because you know that you could really create a really nice picture for them if they let you.
Yeah, if they let you, because I think sometimes people think that a photographer is just a photographer and I can just book someone and it's going to end up and I can kind of direct it or say what I want and then that's what they're going to create. But that's not how it is. You have to choose someone you trust. That is so important. But that means that we have to kind of convey that they can trust us, which can be the hard part. And especially when you add the money aspect on top, it's like, but I need to pay my bill. So I just need to get anyone booked. And then things start falling apart because you're not booking the couples or the clients that you should because you're thinking about the money. And then you can't really say that people should trust you because you're not necessarily offering what they want. You're just taking them on because you need to. So it's really hard.
It's really hard. And many times I said no to customers just because gut feeling. I could have a mail. I don't even know who these people are. And I had that day was free in my calendar. But sometimes I said, no, I don't have the capacity just for the feeling.
Yeah. Yep. And that's really important. Trusting your gut feeling. I think that's maybe one of the lessons to take away from this, because it's so easy to say yes when you know you should say no. And every time I've done that, I've known afterwards or beforehand that this is going to end up bad. And afterwards I've said like, I knew this was going to happen.
Yes, exactly.
And it's so painful.
It's that. But another thing that I was thinking now that I used to do when I did wedding photography that I think was a very smart thing. I gave them always really a lot of pictures. 200, 300. Only a few of those pictures were the wedding pictures. But I took all the guests, grandma, grandpa, like those kind of situations. These pictures I didn't have to edit, nothing. And these are the pictures that the people appreciate a lot.
Mm.
And they just give value. So because they got, some other wedding photographers used to tell me, you can't give them that many pictures. But for me, it was easy. Those were not pictures. I was there the whole day anyway. So these are just this kind of pictures. And they are not the most amazing pictures, but they have feelings in them, and they have all their guests in some way.
Yeah.
And in that way, they never complained so much for my weddings. I didn't have such a problem with the people complaining price for weddings. That was more the portraits and the others.
Yeah.
Because when they got so many pictures, they felt that they got value for the money.
Yeah.
So I think this is an easy way to make people happy and feel that they get more for because it's expensive.
I agree. Like, over delivering is, as long as it doesn't, if you don't overdo it so that it hurts you, I think it's a good idea, because then it's not going to be so easy to argue with that. But you still have the people who argue beforehand and tell you it's expensive beforehand.
Yes, definitely.
Because afterwards it's done, the money is spent, but beforehand it can still feel really, really, really hard.
Definitely.
On October 23rd, I'm hosting a planning workshop, a one-day workshop where we are going to check out this year and see how things went. And then we're going to use whatever information we found, as well as take a look at your values and what means the most to you, to make sure that we can plan the best 2025. I hope that you're going to be there, because it's going to be really great. You can go to ingvildkolnes.com/mini course to find more information. There's only 40 spots this year, so it's going to be very limited, and I just can't wait. So I'll see you there. Because I did a workshop with you a couple of years ago, which was it last year? It was amazing. We were doing like flower photography in an amazing garden, or an amazing
Skärgårdshagen. It's like it is a garden.
Yeah. And you were speaking about your kind of journey as a photographer and how you got burnt out. And you said something that I thought was really interesting. And that was that you don't get burnt out doing things you don't like. You can get burnt out doing something you do like.
Yeah.
Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Because when I got burned out, I really thought I had done too much of what I didn't like, of accounting and, all these obvious things.
Yeah.
But then I got to the psychiatrist, and she said to me, okay, we're going to talk about feelings. And I said, damn, now we're going about sorrow and, mad anger and she said, okay, let's start with the word eager. Like, and I was like, I don't have a problem with that. I'm really happy with that, And she said, well, maybe that's the problem. And I was like, oh my God, it is the problem. I'm like a dog. My tail waggles every time someone throws me an idea. And the same with weddings, sometimes I feel so flattered, like they want me. Oh God, yeah. And then afterwards I was like, but that was my only weekend off. And yeah, so that I learned so much, because when you don't get burned out because you're weak, because you're just because you really want to, and you do too much of the things you want. Of course, it's so much fun, and it's all you want, and you just want one more thing out on social media before you go to bed, and it's 1 o'clock, and it's just not perfect yet. So definitely, but I never thought about that side of it. But that for me probably was the biggest factor also.
Did you learn some kind of strategies on how, I don't know, how to deal with it? Is it to just say no to things you want to do? I mean, how can you fix that?
Well, that's one part of it, is that you need to say no and have your limits, of course.
Okay.
So that the things that you don't want to do, it's easier to say no, because, and that means you can say yes to something else. Mm-hmm. So definitely that was a big part for me. And what I learned is a really good trick for that is like you put down all the things that you do, like in your business or in life. And then you arrange them so you have what you value most on the top and then down. And then you can actually just draw a line in the middle.
Oh, wow.
And everything under the line is no. And everything over the line is yes. It's easy. That way it's really easy.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you do one with, it's best to do one with your whole life, because you will see it so clearly. Obviously, family will come on top for most people, I think. Mm-hmm. And what we often do is that they are the no.
Yeah, that's so true.
And that hurts our soul so much when we contradict, when we do. We don't know that even that we do it, but when we say yes to things that is on the no side, we would have to say no to the things on our yes side.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes I speak with people and they say, I just say yes and it doesn't affect anything. And I mean, that's not true. Whether that means you get to sleep less or you have less time with your family, or, I mean, there's always something that will suffer because it's not possible to do everything.
It's not possible. And also what I learned is like, you just say no. No is a whole sentence, like no other explanation needed. Because if you say, no, I'm going to do something else instead, they said, oh, we can do it next week. And you have the same problem.
Yeah.
So it's always like, no, I don't have the capacity. No, it's a no. Like, that was one of the things.
But did it work for you? Did it, I mean, knowing that is a strategy is one thing, but were you able to kind of follow it and actually follow the line you drew and say yes and say no?
Not at once.
Okay.
It takes practice, like everything else. I mean, I spent 40 years, practicing saying yes when I wanted to say no.
Yeah.
But after some time, and I also, I stopped going to the psychiatrist and I went to a dog trainer instead.
Okay.
Perfect. And he knew about the limits. So what I learned is like, you set a limit with no feelings. You just love the other person, You don't get upset, angry. You just put it away. It's just a no. Like we put so much feeling into it because so many times we drag it too far,
Absolutely.
And when you're going to say no, you're already upset and it comes out as a no.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad afterwards. Mm-hmm. So you're like, well, I didn't mean it. Like, okay, we can find it, So, but when I started to get the hang of saying no with no feeling, the other one wouldn't react either. When I don't have a feeling in my no, the other one's just doesn't even bother with it's a no.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was great to learn.
Very, very interesting. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's helped you to have more balance, more energy back?
Yeah, it takes time. But definitely. And another thing is like, it struck me that, okay, if being eager is the thing that makes me exhausted, it's a very good feeling for me. So I'm kind of addicted to it.
Yeah.
I need to know when I'm eager.
Right.
So in that way, I started to think about it. And it turned out I didn't know the difference between inspired and eager.
Okay.
Which for me, it's like, now I can just do this and I can feel, am I now inspired to do this or am I just eager? That makes a very big difference. I need to just breathe and think, okay, hang on. Where do I feel this? Because inspired, it comes from within me.
Right.
And eager is more like someone throwing a bone to a dog. Like, you just, whoa, it's fun and you want to do it. But it's not necessarily your idea. It's not necessarily something you can feel that your soul, your being will feel. It's a different feeling. But once you get the hang of making the two distinction, for me at least, that makes a very, very big difference.
So to be able to kind of distinguish them, I guess you have to take some time before you say yes to something.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Okay.
And you have to sense, is this, does it make me good, or is it just like to impress or for fun, or am I just flattered? You have to find your feeling.
Makes a lot of sense.
And of course, sometimes you can say, oh, this is fun, I want to do it. And then you feel like, but hang on, this is not, it's just like some celebrity, for example. So that's why it's fun, And you say, but this is not the kind of pictures that I want to put on my page, for example.
Yeah.
But it's fun because they want me and they are celebrities, and And then you have to say, okay, this is me being eager now. I would definitely love to be on this project. It would give me energy. They are fun people, for example. Then I think you have to say, okay, this is not something I create for my soul. So this has to be more expensive.
Right.
I can say yes to this, but then I have to earn more money, not to sell my soul.
That makes sense.
So I think it's not that we are not going to do the things that we are feeling eager about, but when we learn to see, okay, this is that, it has to be more expensive.
Yeah. You have to do it for the right reasons instead of just doing it. And also maybe remembering how it fits in with your priorities, that you're not...
Yeah.
Maybe just taking a second to see okay, so what do I have to say no to in order to say yes to that? And is it then worth it?
And for example, when I did weddings also, I had a price list for example, celebrities, because they didn't want the pictures published. So I put the price much higher. I had a price for where I could use some pictures on my webpage and for my publicity. And I had a completely different price for the people who wanted the rights to the pictures. Because obviously I'm not going to work this for the same price if I can't use it for my marketing. So, and people got really mad at me. I lost many clients from that.
And that actually reminds me of something you said once, where you had an inquiry from someone very rich in Norway who said no, these prices are out of our budget. And they're the richest person in Norway. And it's okay. So I just think that so often people think that, I need to work with rich clients because rich clients are the only ones who can afford what we do. But it's all about what people value. It's not about money.
It's not. And I think they sometimes got offended because they thought I'm going to take more money from them with the higher prices. But you always pay more if you want the whole right to the picture.
Of course.
That's how it works, my friend. It's but they got offended. And I said, okay. Then I rather go to a beach wedding where everything's low key and I earn the same amount of money and I can put those funny pictures on my webpage and get more clients. It's of course. Yeah.
Have you spoken to many others who have had similar experiences with you when it comes to burnout and quitting photography or wanting to quit?
Not really. I'm not sure. I think people don't mention so much all the like personal reasons, like because I really think that what I said about self-worth, how you're feeling about yourself and your relationships, like, of course, all these things, I think people in the photography world, we don't talk about it, we just say, I got burned out, I got tired of doing but I think this is a very important side of it.
Yeah.
And I really believe, like, in life in general, I didn't think that I was lying so much. And I read a book that was called something about telling the truth, and I thought, I don't need to read that book, I don't lie. And I realized I'm lying about everything all the time, so I just realized that honesty is the same as resting. You cannot rest if you cannot be honest. And that goes for business and life, And I thought so many times, I never really wanted to be a wedding photographer. I thought it was fun, but it wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And I felt all the time that I was lying. I said, like, oh, wow, this is such a wonderful wedding. I really enjoy my job. And this dress is so beautiful. And it's not the high-end lying, but it's all the time lying a little bit.
I completely understand. Yeah.
And that's also part of it.
Yeah.
If we don't dare to be completely honest, we will always be like caught in this imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
You think that one day they will discover that this is not who I am. And
This makes so much sense. And I think that a lot of people go through burnout. And as I told you right before we started recording, that one of the reasons that I wanted to start doing kind of education was because I knew so many who either got completely burned out or just gave up. And it was often the most talented ones, the best ones, who kind of gave the most, who gave up. And I think that's one of the reasons why having this talk is really important, because I'm sure that many people can relate, even though maybe they're not at the place where they want to give up or have to give up. But can we kind of come up with some advice to kind of, what can we say to encourage people or to make them take the right decisions moving forward?
I think one thing that is really important to say is that photographer is a really important job. Because this is also one of the things for me, I didn't used to think that it was such an important job. I used to think that, I charge too much almost because it's a luxury, but it's not. It's not a luxury. It's really an important job in people's lives. And sometimes someone dies, and what the pictures means to them, it's, and for the families, that these pictures last forever, and we create some people's even like identity through, you can lift people, you can, like, it's a really important job. This is something very important to know.
Yeah.
When you either are just starting or you want to quit, or you think you're charging too much, because it is very important.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I never thought so much about valuing my work in that way. I always thought, because now as I work as a nurse, it's easy to say that I do an important job because, so even if I don't earn that much, it's not an issue because it's easy for me to justify my work. So,
yeah.
But that should be easy also with photography. And we must never forget that.
That's a very important way of looking at it.
Yeah. And then people must also not get caught in competing and even comparison, because we all have our unique voice. The more you trust your own voice, the better your work, and the easier it should be to charge what you want and run a business. But you have to love yourself. Otherwise, it's if you're not honest, it's going to it's like that. If you're not honest, it doesn't go all the way.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think in that honesty lies a realization of who you want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think like, oh, I can just work with anyone and it's going to be fine, I would say that you're really wrong, because you're not right for everyone. There's someone who's going to value what you do the most. And if you work with those people, then you're going to feel better because your values are aligned. They want what you have to offer, instead of just, yeah, okay, I can be your photographer, and they'll be like, yeah, that's nice photos, instead of working with those people who will really love them.
And I think sometimes you just have to be brave. All the time you have to be brave. But for example, when I did not weddings but family pictures, I like to take a little bit more casual pictures, like more documentary style.
Yep.
And if there was families who booked with me who didn't want to be in the pictures themselves, like they only wanted pictures of the children, I told them, you can go and find another photographer. You can't come to me, because you can't expect your children to want to be in the picture if you don't think you're pretty enough to be in the picture yourself. Yep. It's no good. So I forced them to be in the pictures. And afterwards, they almost always sent a mail and said, we're so thankful for those family pictures. So sometimes you just put your own and say, this is how I do it. And if not, then...
Yeah, but I think that's really important. And maybe that is like a confidence thing, but just being able to say, like, this is how I do it. If you don't want this, then you can go find someone else in a nice way.
Yeah.
I think that matters a lot, both to the client who'll know, like, this is what I'm getting, but also to you to know that you're creating what you want to create.
Yeah. And I think it's just a way of making them aware of why they came to you in the first place.
Right.
Also, because, for example, me, I work a lot with feelings. I'm not a technical photographer, so some of my pictures are not even sharp. And if people were like, yeah, but there is this, it should be sharp, and, okay, but then you need another photographer. And then they would say, but these pictures are boring. Yes, they are perfect, and then they would be more aware that they actually wanted the feeling.
That's very true.
So you have to be brave and, speak your truth, I think.
Yeah. You said it was 5 years ago since you quit. What's happened in those 5 years, and what do you want to happen in the next 5 years?
Oh, good question. A lot has happened. I think I had hit the rock bottom, as they said. Mm-hmm. So of course it's a long climb to get back up. But I've been working with really good people, like good coaches, and I think that is so important. I think when you are not burned out, mm-hmm. When you are working, and that is one of the things I really wish I had known, the value of having a coach or a mentor. Definitely. Yeah. I think
I could not do without my coach.
No.
It helps so much.
So that was one of your previous questions, and now got the answer. So now I have 3 different, one coach, and that helps me build myself back up. Mm-hmm. And there is still a side of me that really wants to be a storyteller. Mm. But I'm not there yet, because I'm still as soon as I have to perform, I get nervous and I black out and I can't do anything. So I have to find a way to get back to the creative. And maybe for me, it's too late to combine it with business again. Maybe that bridge burned. But I learned a lot about myself, so I wouldn't have done it differently, because then I wouldn't have to do that job that I had to do with myself to start to like myself and start to be more true in the world,
Yeah.
So I think everything, you have to see it as a gift. It is not, and I think also we talk a lot about burnout, and it's not a way of scaring people going into the industry, because really it's not. And if it's like whiplash, that neck thing you get in the in the accidents in the 80s, that doesn't exist anymore. That it doesn't exist. In the 80s, everyone walked around with one of those around, and they all had it because they expected to have it if they crashed. So, and the same with ADHD. We all expect to have it, so we have it. And burnout, we all expect to have it, so we have it. Of course, this is a side of it, I think. We must not talk about it as the big scary monster that it will appear now for everyone because they expect it. So that's something I'm afraid of always when I talk about it, that I manifest it for others in that way, because that's not what it is. I think they call it the dark night of the soul. And I think everyone during the lifetime has to go to their shadow side. And in life, something or another is going to push us there. If it's abuse, if it's, marriage breaking up, or if it's your business, or if, it's going to push us to go to the depth and through the darkness to be a fully human. So we mustn't be afraid of it, because it's really a gift. And maybe for the people going into the business now, if they can see that this is a gift, you have to just work with it all the time and start working with it with yourself and with your values and with all these things before you don't have any capacity. Then it's really a gift, I think.
Yeah. And hopefully after listening to this and implementing some of those strategies, like listing out what matters and all that, learning to say no, maybe it's going to get a bit easier, because it does. I don't know if burnout has to happen to everyone, but it does happen to a lot, especially for us creatives who pour everything we have into what we do. And if it does happen to you, I would suggest talking to someone for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to get before it happens to you, to have if you have a mentor or a coach or someone to guide you, you wouldn't have to go through that, because you would take some of your shadow all the time, on the way. So yeah, definitely have someone to help with that side of it, because economy and, that is one part of it, but another part is our feelings around things. I think that's the part that we don't incorporate enough.
Yeah, I think that's maybe my biggest takeaway, that I need to speak more to feelings and maybe kind of validate my own feelings more. Like, what do I actually feel around things? Because I'm kind of like you, I just say yes because I want to so much. And then afterwards it's just, okay, now it's too much and I don't know what to do. So yeah, I need to learn from this. For sure.
Yeah, we are many people who needs to learn this. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you so much for wanting to have this talk with me. Thank you for sharing so honestly, even though you say that you are used to lying a lot, it feels honest. Like you actually shared what's happened to you and how you feel about things now. I'm sure this is going to be valuable for so many people who feel less alone, knowing that it doesn't have to be this way, and there is a way to both get over it and maybe work around it.
Yeah, and also what I would like to say is, people must have fun. Don't get too caught up in all the things, the serious things. I think that is my best advice, to enjoy the journey and have fun and see all the obstacles as gifts.
Yeah.
And possibilities to change and develop.
Yeah. Yeah. Never stop evolving, for sure. That's a good ending note. Thank you, Mona. If you are still on Instagram, I will share a link to your Instagram so people can follow you, because you do show a lot of your beautiful photos there.
Thank you.
Thank you. You just listened to an episode of Sustainable Photography. Please share this episode with a photographer you care about.